It's Al here from Grumpy Grognard Gaming. If you have been living under a rock or in the Eye of Terror recently, you may have failed to notice that the fandom for 40k has recently exploded. The reason for this is the confirmation of the existence of Female Custodes by GW. First of all, this was revealed through a short story that appeared in the 10th edition codex, before GW later went on to not only confirm the existence of Female Custodes in Warhammer 40,000 and presumably the Horus Heresy, because they have said that there have always been Female Custodes in the game, that the Female Custodes have always been a member of the 10,000 since their inception. Previous information that we've had in the 8th and 9th edition codexes does contradict this, so we can consider this to be a retcon. And although I am surprised at the retcon, I am not necessarily surprised that GW have performed this retcon, because it is only one of a number that they have done in recent years, with the most recent and shocking that I have seen being the recent change that they've made to the manner of Horus Lupercal's death. His soul was not blown away, his soul was not obliterated by the Emperor as a final form of destroying his son. He was simply stabbed by anathema that was given to the Emperor while he lay unconscious. Long and short of it, if they want, they can bring Horus back now. No problem. But we're not talking about Horus, we're talking about the Female Custodes that have now been announced very, very poorly by GW. No new models, no material in the lore, just a short story pretty much that just says, yep, there's Female Custodes now, there always has been, deal with it. So let's talk about this. Why have GW done this? Well, they've done this because they want to. It's as simple as that. Is it a measure to placate those that have been screaming out asking for female space marines, a sort of, make do with this so that we don't have to give you female space marines? Quite possibly. I think there's a chance that it's been done as a half measure, a sort of a dip in the tone of water. Let's see what happens if we do this. It's a intermediate measure. It's not female space marines, but it's something. It's not going to work, mind you. It's going to only embolden people who've been calling for these changes to the law, whether you agree with them or not. Already, we've seen proclamations of gate crushing and that kind of thing by those elements. And what the people who are opposed to this kind of thing need to understand is that you were never gatekeepers. You have no control over the hobby. Only one company has control over the hobby, and that is Games Workshop. What Games Workshop want to do, Games Workshop will do and will continue to do. And what they've done here is they've weighed up the potential loss that they might have from introducing Female Custodes as opposed to whatever they consider the benefits to be, and they've basically decided they're going to do it. And they won't stop here. This will continue. GW will continue down this route. As I have said before, Games Workshop is the hobby version of Disney. They're a massive company with a lot of exposure and a lot of different people trying to have their influences in the hobby. It wouldn't surprise me if some of the older guard, the older people in the company, aren't happy with this. They may well be of the same opinion. They don't want things being changed and that the game and the law is going in the wrong direction. But they won't be able to say anything. It's like Hollywood actors. They'll stay quiet because they know otherwise they're going to lose their job. So this isn't going to undo itself. And all of I've seen people doing sort of a petition or suggesting petitions and emailing into Games Workshop. It's pointless. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to do anything. Games Workshop don't care. They have their own agenda. They're going to do what they do, and this is going to be it going forward. So, what can you do about it if you're upset by it? You have a choice at the end of the day. You either accept this and carry on, or you leave it all behind. Now, when it comes to previous IPs that I have seen roundly ruined, like, for example, Star Wars. Star Wars is a shell of itself. It is so far removed from what it was in both style and philosophy that I actually consider it unrecognizable from what I grew up with. The same can be said for Star Trek, and to me, this is a much bigger loss because I grew up watching Star Trek with my father, and it was very important to me. This vision of the future where mankind has put aside petty differences. We've moved beyond racism. It doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the improvement of man, the expansion of his knowledge, and the search for something new among the stars, for exploration. Any morality tales were told through alien allegory, and it was progressive, but Star Trek encouraged you to think rather than telling you what to think. I cannot say the same of modern Star Trek, which is phenomenally preachy, phenomenally one sided, and just seems to revel in exposing bad elements of humanity, and gone is the optimistic future. It's all absolutely horrible, manipulative, emotional nonsense, and unrecognizable from Star Trek that I grew up with. So, what happened? I left it behind. Star Wars doesn't exist for me. The timeline ended after Return of the Jedi. Star Trek more or less doesn't exist for me, at least in terms of TV series, after 2005 and the end of Enterprise. You can make that choice. I have the old stuff. I can enjoy the old stuff. And the same applies with Warhammer 40,000. I've not been happy with the lore of Warhammer 40,000 since 8th, since they brought the Primaris in and the Primarchs came back. It all got a little bit silly. We started to move away from the grounded grimdark, and it became more like a space fantasy. Here are these brand new super space marines that are even better, and Goodman brings a massive crusade. Obviously, don't worry, it's all still horrible and grimdark, but we're not going to make any reference to any of that kind of stuff. It's another step towards that. It's another step towards the Disneyfication of another IP, and I'll be keeping an eye on it because GW have shown that they don't care. They will change things at a whim.
Future's now, old man.
And if you don't like it, you're just going to be declared wrongthink. You'll be ostracised from the hobby. GW don't want you. They want whatever they think they're going to get out of this. And at the end of the day, as I say, you either accept it or you get upset over it. And there are people who are on the right that are like, oh, don't want girls, don't want gays, don't want, there are people like that, absolutely. And then there's people on the left who are, oh, I want my lesbian custodes commissar relationships, like a piece of artwork I saw recently. And there's people on either side, and then there's people in the middle who are just like, look, we just want this, universe, and we don't really want it messed with, and we just, leave it alone. You're not doing anything good to it. You're just damaging it, and you have been for years now. And the most I can say to you is just walk away. Just walk away. Play an earlier edition. Games Workshop control the hobby. They do not control your hobby. You can take facets and headcanon as much as you want. If somebody can do head swaps on Space Marines, or put My Little Pony Space Marines together and have that as their headcanon, then you can make your own headcanon in the universe. If you're that upset about Female Custodes and you don't have the detachment that I have, where I'm just like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. If it bothers you, then make an order of Custodes that just has blokes. Hell, you can even just leave out the Sisters of Silence if you want. And one of the problems I have with Female Custodes is that I think it actually devalues the Sisters of Silence. I think it makes them, less special, in my opinion. And they've been given short shrift in this new codex anyway. They've not been expanded. And let's talk about the Custodes for a second. I don't even think the Custodes should be in the game, not as an army. I think they diminish and devalue Space Marines, like Primaris already did. Primaris came out, Astartes were diminished. Primaris are stronger, bigger, faster, more organs, better in every single way. Deus Ex Mechanicum Belisarius Call has improved the Emperor's work. And then the Custodes came along. And they're better than the Primaris. So the Astartes, which were originally elite, have been knocked down again. Primarch's coming out. But that's what GW want to do. They are the gatekeepers. These people who called themselves gatekeepers never were. They weren't holding anything. They've turned around and holding the gate, and the entire rest of the castle is gone. And if that bothers you, then that bothers you. But for me, this is emblematic. More, I have the problem that GW have turned around and said they've always been there, which is lazy. Because they haven't. There was no previous mention at all. I think there was a throwaway line in one of Aaron Dembski-Bowden's books in 2022. But other than that, every single piece of material that GW have ever published is sons, he, him. It's always been, and it's lazy to just turn around, gaslight your fans and say, no, they've always been there. And if you've got a problem, you're the bigot. If GW had turned around and said, right, okay, there's some kind of new technology, Cole's come up with something, which, let's face it, is what they're going to do if they bring out female Space Marines, which is an inevitability at this point. Sorry, it is. Then, basically, I might have a modicum of respect for them. If they'd gone, right, okay, something's happened, now there are female Custodes. But if they'd not done this phenomenal retcon to change what comes before, then, maybe I won't be too bothered. But as I say, 40k, I'm ready to leave behind. I'm more upset that by them doing this, it then impacts on 30k. Because they've shown in that case that they are prepared to actively change things. What you're playing in 40k, 30k at the moment can change at moment's notice. They can change whatever they like. And for me, Specialist Games has been a bastion of the old crowd, the people that made the GW that I grew up with, and that's where they've gone to. That's where the old guard have gone to, is to Specialist Games to carry on doing that. And they've gone, right, okay, 40k, you can kiddify that, you can do what you want. You make it Crayon Hammer. And I think it's quite hilarious that the codex that they've announced female Custodes in is being derided and widely considered to be the weakest codex out there. At the end of the day, it is what it is. People have pointed towards the fact that BlackRock and Vanguard own nearly 10% of GW stock as a factor, and those companies tend to diversify their portfolios anyway. I'm not going to say that ESG doesn't necessarily play a part in it, because, as I say, GW are basically hobby Disney. You need to look at things like Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast. This only goes one way. And the decision that you have to make as consumers, as hobbyists, is what you're going to do about it. And as I say, I'm somewhat nonplussed. I'm more bothered in the way that it's been done than what's been done, if that makes sense. I have a certain amount of detachment in it. I've not been happy with GW since 8th, like I said. I'm not going to go over old ground. People have also hilariously been posting that GW stocks dropped. There's no chance to see if this has really affected their stock. If their stock's dropped, it's most likely due to the recent events that are going on between Israel and Iran. A 1% drop in stock is pretty much nothing. You need to go forward. But I'll tell you this now, Games Workshop don't care. They don't care. You can write thousands of letters. You can start your petitions. GW don't care. They've done what they've done. Different factions of the fan base have taken it as they will. Some are outraged. Some are cackling and screaming from the rooftops about their victory over the Chuds. Look at previous IPs as an example of what's gone on and decide what you are going to do. Rings of Power does not exist to me. It's shitty, poorly devised fan fiction that would make Tolkien roll in his grave. That's my decision. I don't accept that. I don't accept new Star Wars. I don't accept, for the vast majority, new Star Trek. I have made that decision not to consume that material. I have the old stuff. I can do that. GW cannot take your old things away from you. I said this in Matt in a previous video. There's nothing that they've built into your models or into your old books that will make those destruct. And if you want to use things like Votan in the earlier editions, make some rules. Matt can't stand 10th edition. He was in the process of making 30k style rules for Tyranids and for his Votan and things like that. You have the powers to do this. You can probably do it better than GW at this point, because their rules writing and their custodianship, if you excuse the pun, of 40k recently has been absolute bollocks. They've driven it into the ground. It's wank. Specialist Games is the only thing worth anything at the moment in GW, in my opinion. Now, 40k, I still love some of the models. I'll still paint the models. I've been primarily painting stuff for ages. Matt's much more of a gamer than me. I'm more the other side of the hobby. I like the lore. I like the models. I'll play the games and I enjoy the games, but they're not the primary driver for me. So this has been a bit of a rambly one, and I do apologise. But at the end of the day, the BUSTODES, as I'm calling them, are here to stay. GW are not going to get rid of them, no matter how many letters you write. You, as hobbyists, have to decide what you are going to do. Okay, we're going to leave it there. This has been Al for Grumpy Grognard Gaming. If you like what you hear, like what you do, then give us a like, share, subscribe, that kind of nonsense. I'll be back with Matt doing some regular content soon, but this was just a little video that I wanted to do just to set the record straight over what GW have done recently. Okay, thanks very much and see you later. Bye.